Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for today's edition of Arkansas Alive. All week we're talking about shortages. What does the Bible have to say about shortages, and how do you get through them? How do you walk in faith and love instead of fear? Well, we have shortages out there, but that's just all part of humanity, part of human life. But the Bible tells us how to overcome every situation. So I want you to stay tuned all week. Arkansas Alive starts right now. You know, yesterday I was telling you a story about a lady that was in our church. Actually, she worked for us. She was on our staff at one time. And she worked for us for many, many years. And she had two girls, and her husband had abandoned her. They were just she was a single parent family. And she told me this story years ago, and I verified it with her. And she said that they would eat a baked chicken, and they'd pray over it, ask God to multiply it. And for several days, the Lord told them each night after they ate off of that chicken to put it back in the refrigerator. And the next day they would take it out and they would eat on it again, put it back in the refrigerator, and each night God multiplied that chicken. And it had more meat on the bones for them to eat every night. Now, you know, that's not so outlandish. God did the same thing for the children of Israel in the wilderness. He fed them quail and manna every day. And He told them not to store it up. See, this is where fear comes in. This is where disobedience comes in. If you begin to fear and you begin to hoard, or you begin to be an extreme prepper, nothing wrong with being prepared and, for a rainy day, so to speak. But once you get into fear, it becomes an obsession. And, the Bible teaches against that. He told the children of Israel, He said, "Now, I don't want you to store this food up, because if you do, it'll canker or it will spoil. I'll provide fresh food for you every day." Now, if you've ever had quail, that's a delicacy. Go to the grocery store tomorrow and go and tell the guy in the meat department you'd like some quail. Of course, most stores won't have it. You have to go to a specialty store and get quail. But God fed them quail and manna every day. And when they did store it up, it did exactly what God said. It cankered, it molded. So you don't have to be afraid. God is able to supply all your need. And listen to how He's going to do it, and we'll read it in a minute. According to His riches in glory. Not according to your need. Not according to the culture. Not according to the economy. But according to His riches in glory. That's how He will do it. I'm going to tell you some more stories along the way. These will help you. When Jeannie and Ronnie and I first started in the ministry, and of course, Jeannie and I had both worked. She was a career professional. She was the secretary to the president of the Bankers Association. And she had a good job and very efficient and professional and so forth. And I had a good, not so much a good job because I was in the liquor business, but I made a decent living. And so, we were used to having 2 paychecks come in every week or every 2 weeks, and we were used to being able to pay our bills on time, etc., blah, blah, blah. Well, when God called us into the ministry, and He called us both to resign our jobs and go full-time in the ministry, and we no longer had salary checks coming in. We had no income, so to speak, that we knew we were going to get every Friday or every 2 weeks, the 1st and the 15th. And so I remember this particular day. It was a Wednesday, and we always went to the grocery store. Actually, I think we had changed our grocery buying day to Wednesday. We used to go on Saturdays or whatever, and changed it to Wednesday. And this particular Wednesday, We had no money to buy any groceries. We didn't have groceries in the pantry or in the refrigerator enough to last us a week, and we had no money to buy groceries. And all of a sudden, a knock came on the front door. I went to the door, and there was a lady standing there, and she said to us, "My husband is a traveling salesman." And we knew this lady, and we knew her husband. And she said, "My husband was driving down the highway in South Arkansas," and said, "and the Lord spoke to him to stop and call me." Now, this was before mobile phones. He had to stop at a payphone on the side of the road, and he called his wife at home and said, "The Lord spoke to him and said, the Caldwell family needs $50 and they need it today." I can't tell you how that thrilled me. I thought to myself, wow, God knows where we live. God knows our need. He knows our habits. He knows we were going to go to the grocery store today and didn't have the money to buy groceries. And she handed us a $50 bill. Oh, my goodness. You'd have thought that heaven had come down. I was so thrilled. You can only imagine how that thrilled me to know that God met our need. Now, in those days, you could buy 5 sacks of groceries with $50 at $10 a sack. Today, $50 will just barely get you out the door with a few items. But then $50 would buy us a whole week's supply of groceries for a family of 3. God supernaturally provided for us in a time of shortage. I'll tell you another story. We were just starting in the ministry, and we needed $5,000. Now, I don't remember why we needed the $5,000. I don't remember what we needed it for. I know we had just gone on the radio. Actually, there was only one Christian radio station in all of Central Arkansas, and it was in Jacksonville, Arkansas, and it was KGMR. And I went out there and I bought a 15-minute block of time, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. It was 15 minutes. And I made the programs on a reel-to-reel tape in my closet, and I would take them out to the radio station and they would play them. And we needed $5,000. We needed a tape recorder. We needed a way to duplicate the tapes. We needed everything. We needed so many things. And we had gone full-time into the ministry, and we were just thrilled over the fact that we were able to serve the Lord and minister to people. And I thought, how am I going to get this $5,000? I have no resource for it, because remember, Jeannie and I had resigned our jobs, so we didn't have a salary check coming in, no income. And I had some stock that my grandmother had given me as a boy. And so I don't know how much it was worth, I don't remember, but I cashed it or sold it, cashed it all in. I accumulated through liquidation about $500. Well, that wasn't $5,000, but it was $500. And I had the revelation then of sowing and reaping. Remember Proverbs 11, it says, "He that scattereth increaseth. And if you withhold more than is fitting, it tends to poverty." Well, we were already in poverty. We couldn't meet our needs, and we needed everything, food, clothing, everything. And when I got that $500, I had just read Pat Boone's book. Now, this was the early 70s, 73, 74. Pat Boone had written a book. The singer, the actor, had written a book, a dollar a day keeps the devil away, something like that. And in this book, he had faced as an actor, a Christian actor who went into the ministry. He had faced similar situation, and he shared how he decided how much money he needed, and he started tithing on that amount. He didn't wait till he got the money in and give the tithe. He gave the tithe first. So he figured out how much he needed. And I was processing all this, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, I need $5,000. So my tithe on $5,000 would be $500. Well, I had the $500, sold stock, liquidated everything I could, and I got the $500. And that same day, I received a letter from a ministry that was asking for a donation so they could fulfill one of their projects or obligations or whatever. And I took that as God showing me what to do with my $500. So I sent that $500 to that ministry. And I was so thrilled to be able to do it. And I don't know how long it took, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks or whatever. And now watch how God works. Watch how this goes. And I also received an envelope in the mail in a couple of weeks from a minister down in South Louisiana. His name was Dave Fisher. I came to know Dave. He pastored a church down there. We became friends. He wrote one of the songs that we recorded on one of our albums. We used to go down and minister at his church. And Dave sent me a letter and said, I have been saving my money to record a new record album. He said, but today the Lord spoke to me. He said, I had saved $5,000. And he said, the Lord spoke to me to send you that $5,000. I thought, my Lord, look at this. I gave the $500 as the tithe on the $5,000 that I needed. And in just a few days or weeks, this man had heard from God to send me $5,000. I had my $5,000 that I needed. And I had already paid the tithe, $500. That set in me a realization that God could supply my need according to His riches in glory by Christ Jesus. Now, let's go over there and read that in Philippians chapter 4 and verse, let's start with verse 15 to get the full impact, of what the Apostle Paul is teaching the church at Philippi. Now, you Philippians know that in the beginning of the gospel, when I departed from Macedonia, no church communicated with me as concerning giving and receiving, but you only. For even in Thessalonica, you sent once and again unto my necessity. I had a need. Not because I desired the gift, but I desire the fruit that may abound to your account. That's good to know. But I have all and abound, I am full, having received of Epaphroditus the things which were sent from you, an odor of a sweet smell, a sacrifice acceptable, well-pleasing to God. But my God shall supply all your need according to His riches in glory by Christ Jesus. Now, He didn't say that God would supply your need according to your need or according to the economy. Or according to the culture. He said He would supply your need according to His riches in glory. God never experiences shortage. There is no shortage in heaven of anything. There's no shortage of money. There's no shortage of food. Listen, if you could do the research and find the right answers and find the right channels for investigation, there's no shortage of money in this country. There's no shortage of food in this country. This country can grow as much food as it needs and enough to feed other countries every day. There's no shortage of gasoline in this country. We have had people that are in positions of authority make wrong decisions based on whatever. We don't ever know all the truth. But we have no shortage of gasoline. We have no shortage of oil. We have no shortage of food. There's really no shortage of any of the resources that we need. Now, there might be supply issues. There might be quality control issues. There might be whatever. You hear all the time where some countries being fined for, they got this germ or this disease or this infection or whatever. And there might be those things. They continue all the time. Anytime you have services and packaging and growing fruits, vegetables, animals, there's all kinds of things that can go wrong. But basically, by and large, there are no shortages in this country. Now, back when Jeannie and Ronnie and I were traveling on the road in our little 72 Dodge van, there was a gas shortage. But that, too, was not a shortage. There was no shortage of gasoline. It was specifically designed to raise the price of gasoline. So they cut back supply, and that raised the price. And the raising of the price of gasoline sparked a pandemic, a fear. And so people began to hoard. They began to be afraid. They began to go fill their car up and then go home and siphon it out in a gas can and then go fill it up again. Those kind of things happen. But there are no real shortages. I remember we were traveling during those days, and we never waited in line for gasoline. We never had to wait in one line for gasoline in the 70s when there was, quote, a gas shortage. There was no gas shortage. We had plenty of gas. Somebody was manipulating supply and demand for their benefits, etc. One night we were in a church down in South Louisiana. We've ministered a lot in South Louisiana. And just as we got ready to pack our instruments and everything up and go on to the next town, we asked the congregation we were ministering to pray for us because we were leaving that night and driving on to the next town. And it was a Sunday. And if you'll remember back in those days, the gas stations were closed on Sunday to conserve gas. So there were no gasoline stations open on Sunday. And then Monday morning when they opened, there was always a line, everybody wanting to get gasoline and so forth. So we asked the congregation to pray with us and for us and agree with us that we would make it to our next church meeting and that we would not have to wait in line. We had money to buy gasoline. Money wasn't the problem. It was just there was a contrived gas shortage. So then we prayed, and then we loaded up our van and got ready to leave. Now, we're out in the parking lot in this little church, and this lady walks up to us. And she, for some of you won't know who I'm referring to, but she looked like Ma Kettle on the farm. Back when I was growing up, there was a movies made, Ma and Paul Kettle on the farm. It was an old country couple, funny. And the woman, played by Marjorie Main, she was the over domineering, controlling woman. Her husband was a weak, spineless guy, and she ran everything. Well, this is what this lady reminded me of. She looked like Marjorie Main, Ma Kettle, and she had on a pair of bib overalls. And she walked up to me and she said, "Sonny boy, you need some gasoline?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Follow me. I'm in this pickup truck." So we followed her out to her farm. She had her own gas pump that she used to fuel up her farm machinery, equipment, tractors, etc. She said, "Back that little van right up to this pump," and she filled our van full of gasoline, and off we went to the next church. There was no gas shortage. There's no money shortage. There's no baby food formula shortage. I know the news media says there is, and they'll take you to the companies. They had to shut down for fear of viruses and all that stuff. But all of that can be resolved and fixed. But the panic, the fear, the deception, this is what Jesus warned the disciples about. He said, in these last days, take heed that no man deceive you. Again, I'm not talking about being stupid and frivolous and squandering and not being responsible. But yet these shortages are producing fear, anxiety, worry, and there are all kinds of examples of shortages in the Bible. But in Proverbs 11:24, we read it yesterday and again today. He that scattereth will increase. If you withhold more than is fitting, it tends to poverty. There were times where we would go to churches, we would minister in song. That's basically what we did. We sang, and I might share my testimony, or I started preaching later. And I remember one time, and I think this was in Louisiana also, or maybe Texas. And the pastor came up after the service, and he handed me a check. He said, now this is what came in the offering. He said, and we just wished it could have been more, but here it is. And I thought, oh, okay. And he gave me the check, and the minute he gave me that check, the Spirit of the Lord said to me, I want you to receive this into your ministry. I want you to turn the check over and endorse it and give it back to the pastor, because this church needs this more than you do. I thought, oh, wow, if this church needs this more than we do, they in big trouble, because we needed it desperately. And so I did. I thanked him for it. We prayed over it. I endorsed it, and I gave it back. I said, sir, the Lord just spoke to me and told me to give it back to you. Oh, dear Lord, you'd have thought I'd given him $1 million. If you scatter, it increases. And that's the way we live, because God would supply more than enough on down the line. Another church. If we didn't make it in this particular ministry venue, He'd bless us some other way. So there were never any shortages that affected us. God always took care of us because we could depend on Him. We read the Scriptures. We knew what the Bible had to say about God supplying all of our need, and we lived that way. Still do today. God supplies our need not according to our need. He supplies our need according to His riches in glory. Now, I may get ahead of myself, so I'll try to control myself. I want to tell you stories about how we built VTN, how God blessed us with the money that we needed, millions of dollars, how we built our church, etc. I'll share those things. How Jeannie, oh man, this was early in the ministry. She had no clothes. We had no income. We had no salary checks. We had no way to buy anything. And she needed clothes. We were traveling all the time. So one day, she just went in and cleared out her closet and took all of her clothes. And I don't remember who she gave them to, but she gave them all away. I said, what are you doing? She said, I need some new clothes. Do you have any money to buy any clothes? I said, no. She says, well, the Bible says, give and it shall be given unto you. So she said, that's what I'm going to do. And she started giving her clothes away. Well, she got asked to speak at a ladies' meeting down in England, Arkansas. And it was Peggy and Annette Capps, Charles Capps' wife and daughter. And so she spoke at the ladies' meeting. And then after the meeting was over, Peggy said, you know, Jeannie, she said, my daughter and I have a dress store, clothing store, ladies' clothing store. We'd like for you to come and look at our dresses and outfits. You might find something you'd like. And Jeannie said, oh, no. She said, I can't go over there. I don't have any money to buy anything. I'm going to be so embarrassed when they want me to buy something and I don't have any money. But she went and she looked, and so Peggy said, did you find anything you like? And Jeannie said, oh, yeah, you got some nice stuff. But she said, I'll just have to wait. And Peggy stepped up and said, Jeannie, every once in a while we like to sew clothes, give them to people as seed for our business. So we'd like for you to find whatever you like, and we'd like to give it to you. Oh my goodness, Jeannie found several outfits, and she had prayed and believed God that He would give her clothes with tags on them, sale tags, new clothes, and she had given her clothes away. So she comes home that afternoon, and she comes in there with several dresses, and she lays them all out on the bed. And she says to Ronnie and I, come see what the Lord has done. We go in there and we look, and she's got these outfits on the bed, and we both looked and we said, where's ours? We thought she'd bought all this stuff. And she turned and looked at us and said, use your own faith. She had believed God. She had sown the seed. And then she told us the story of where it all came from. And all the dresses had tags on them. God supplied her need according to His riches and glory. Not according to her need, but according to His riches and glory. God is not short-handed. You know, I look at our workforce out here, our culture. It's just, it's hurtful, grieving to see what's happened to our workforce. And it's not all due to the pandemic. It shows the core of our workforce was not healthy to begin with. And all the pandemic did was open up and show you how deteriorating our workforce was. And now people can't, hire people to work. They can't find help. And there's more jobs available than there are people that want to work. What happened to our work ethic? Well, the government did a major blunder when they started paying people not to work. So how do you live with shortages? That's what we're discussing all week long. I'll continue this tomorrow. Remember, Jesus is Lord of Arkansas, and wherever you're watching in the world, too.
Send your questions, comments, and testimonies to Happy Caldwell at Post Office Box 26207, Little Rock, Arkansas 72221, or email happycaldwell@vtntv.com. Remember to follow VTN on Facebook at VTN Your Arkansas Christian Connection, and follow Happy Caldwell on Twitter at Happy_Caldwell. VTN is on Roku. Search VTN in the channel store and add us to your lineup. Today's episode is available to watch on demand at VTNTV.com and click Watch. You can also watch VTN via live stream at VTNTV.com.